إن الحمد لله تعالى نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah. We praise Him. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil in our soul and from our sinful deeds. Those who are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one can misguide them. Those who are not guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is not a guide for them. I bear witness that there is no deity, there is no God worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and messenger. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Indeed, O ye who believe, revere Allah with the reverence that is due only to Him, and die not except as Muslims in submission to Him. Alhamdulillah, it is so good to be back with you today. We had a wonderful weekend in Reston, Virginia, right outside of the Washington Dulles Airport. If you ever get a chance to go to an Al Medina Institute conference, I highly recommend it to you. Just about every single speech was power-packed, absolutely like being plugged into a 220. There's only one speech at the time, so you don't have to worry about choosing which speech I'm going to go to. It's one speech at a time. The breaks are nice. But they had a guide there from Al-Azhar in Egypt who started every session with recitation of the Quran and led us in all the prayers. We had Qiyam in the mornings at 5 o'clock. It was just absolutely amazing. Just wonderful. And then we stayed an extra 3 days, or 4 days actually, and 3 nights in Bethesda, Maryland, so that we could enjoy some of the sights of D.C., which is one of my favorite cities, the Smithsonian and various things. But on the Monday night I was there, I had a speech in a library, and 13 people attended that. Of the 13 people, 3 of them were actually born Muslim. They were born into a Muslim family, in other words. Let me say that. And out of the 10 that were there, 3 people did their Shahada. It was the most people that I can remember doing the Shahada with me at one time. I think we've had 2 do it in the class, and we might have had 3 one other time. I'm trying to remember when we first started up there, seeming that there were 3 chairs up there one time. But if not, that was the most. And then inshallah, perhaps today, I believe, I deem by Allah, somebody else will be doing the Shahada as well. So that's 4 in 1 month, inshallah.
Not in the class, it's tonight at our house.
Yeah, not in the class. They're coming to our house tonight, inshallah, to do their Shahada. So, again, I want to thank you for your support. I want to thank you for everything that you do, all the prayers that you pray for what we're doing. It means so much, and we are so honored to be able to do this. And this is really so special, but JJ went to Spain. Did you go to Cordoba?
Yeah.
MashaAllah. One of the great learning centers in the history of Islam. And he brought this gift back. And so it'll hang in my office, our office, so whenever you come, you'll be able to enjoy this. Thank you, JJ. This is very special. MashaAllah. I'd like to hear about your trip. Pardon?
Will we have a center in the center?
Yes, exactly.
Inshallah.
So, I'm just going to throw out a few announcements. April the 25th, the potluck at St. Luke's. Around the middle of May, we'll start addressing Ramadan and your questions about Ramadan, because around June the 18th, we're expecting our visitor, the month of Ramadan. And so we want to make sure everybody's prepared for that everybody has goals for that, that you don't just go into it willy-nilly like any other month. It's a special time, and you should prepare. Like any guest that you would have, when a new guest is coming to see you, you change the sheets on the bed. You probably sweep under the bed if it's a guest bedroom, and you prepare for that guest, right? Or do you just not prepare for guests? Do you find that when you have guests, you pull out special treats maybe sometimes? So you want us to pull out the special treats for the month of Ramadan that will be, it's actually really on our heels. We're still collecting non-perishable items, ink cartridges and toners. We got some today. These really help provide office supplies for us, that we don't have to buy them. And we use coupons to help buy stuff for the potluck, and unbroken cell phones for victims of domestic violence. And I also wanted to share with you that I'm very excited, inshallah. I covered your prayers about this. The CEO of Harbor House has offered to supervise me in order for me to obtain licensure. And so that means that inshallah I will probably be working in Harbor House for 2 days a week eventually, counseling victims of domestic violence. So please pray about that. I think our community needs that. We need licensed people. I want to be licensed, but I don't want to be part of insurance panels because that means I have to label people. And when a therapist labels you, you carry that label for the rest of your life. And so I don't really like doing that, so I don't think that's going to be right. I think we're going to have to close that door because they're working on this. And thank you, sister. For group information, and I don't know where everybody is today, but just in case anybody doesn't know about this, if you call me soon, she'll make sure that you get all the information about things that we're doing. Pause for Peace I have a brochure here you can see about it. It's a walk for domestic violence. You can walk your dog if you have a dog. It's Blue Jacket Corner, the north corner of General Reese Avenue and Laura Park Avenue. It's actually about not more than 5 minutes from my house. There is a $20 donation, which includes your t-shirt and a bandana for your pet if you happen to have one. So by all means, check this out. I'd really like if anybody can support this. You do not have to have an animal. We don't have a dog, but we support the event because of domestic violence awareness. So please have a look at that if you will.
If you can post it too.
Yeah, and if you would, I would appreciate that.
If you have another brochure, but I'll take that home and post it.
I do, so you can just take that one. All right. So, I think that's all the announcements. Pretty sure I'm not leaving anything out.
What domestic dog has to do with it?
No, it's just, they call it Pause for Peace, so people go walk their animals in a demonstration about, to sort of make a statement that we are advocating against domestic violence. So some people walk their dogs, and actually sometimes they have dogs for adoption. I don't know if they're going to have it this year. I don't see it in the form. But it's just a way of making people aware about domestic violence.
Because a lot of times animals are affected by domestic violence.
Exactly. Like, for example, Harbor House has a kennel because one of the intimidating things that abusers do is they will actually, one of the first things they'll do is hurt their partner's animal. This is one of the things that people do. This is very common. And so at Harbor House, they have a beautiful kennel. So when somebody goes there to be protected, their animal is protected. They actually have lavender that is being infused with the air conditioner system to help the animals relax. And they play classical music to help the animals relax. So I've actually been there and I thought I wouldn't mind living here myself. It's so relaxing. So yeah, please, if you can support that, I would really, really appreciate it. It's a huge, huge problem. There are approximately 40, sometimes 40 to 50 injunctions daily in Orlando. Domestic violence injunctions. And we really have to take a stand against this. I consistently see injustices in the community. And it's really, really, it's an injustice. It's unfair, and we have to start speaking out against it. And we have to start speaking out about against gender inequalities.
Yeah.
We've got to do that. You know, that it's okay for men to do this, but it's not okay for women to do this. And that's just not what the Quran says, and we cannot allow that to be propagated. So, continuing on the subject that we were on before I left, we had talked at the last session that I was here, which was 14 days ago, about the woes of internet courtship. We talked about a lot of things. Now I want to go into sort of prohibited dating, and today's subject I think is important because a lot of people, when we say the word talaq, they don't really know what it means, particularly reverts. And oftentimes I've had situations where a convert would marry a Muslim and he would say, I'm divorcing you, I'm divorcing you, I'm divorcing you, and now I'm out of here. And they would come to me and say, he said he did talaq on me, and I don't understand, I don't even know what talaq is, and I thought talaq was somebody's name. That's what they'll say to me, you know, or some kind of a spell. So it's important for you to know, and I'm telling you another reason why it's so important for you to know is that unfortunately a lot of the converts think that green is deen. So they will marry a Muslim man knowing nothing about his culture and really very little about him. But the fact that he goes to the masjid, or maybe they think he goes to the masjid, then they will marry him because he needs a green card. And typically what happens is the very day after he has the green card, in my experience of 28 years and 9 months, that man disappears. If anyone has witnessed that before in this room, raise your hand. Would you look around, folks? Would you raise it high, folks? Would you please look around? So I'm not talking nonsense here. I am sharing something with you that you really need to be aware of. It's very, very important. So, another thing I want to talk about is I've seen a situation where converts get involved with someone, and look, I'm going to keep it real here, okay? They get involved with someone, and the person is not divorced. And then they go and they find somebody to do something that they call an Islamic wedding. Now let me ask you something, folks. And if I'm missing something, I invite anybody to help me here, because I'm not running on a lot of sleep right now. But if any woman in this room was married to even a non-Muslim, and they become Muslim, and I can cover this in another day, how that's handled from Quran and everything. But until they have a divorce, can they marry another man?
No.
No,
Because you can't have two, right?
no.
You can't have three, and you can't have four. Okay? This is happening right here in Orlando. I have people that come to me and they cry, oh, we're in love. Well, how can you be in love? You aren't even able to court because you're married. So I hope and pray that you're seeing practical stuff out of what we're covering in this class, because I see this all the time. This is not like just something that happens every once in a while. It's something that we are consistently dealing with. So you cannot court a married woman. Okay? So let's talk about that. It is prohibited to court a woman who is married. The same is true about a woman whose husband divorced her, a non-final divorce. And I'm going to explain all of this. I'm going to break down the whole scripture, so hang on with me. You will get it, but I'm going to break it down in the minuscule, minute details. Okay? So that means talak a first or second time, and she is still in her iddah, which is a waiting period. The reason for this is that in both cases she is considered under the authority or maintenance of her husband, and no other man may challenge that authority. So now let's say that there is a Muslima in the community, and she is separated from her husband. And they've been separated for 10 months. Is she eligible?
No.
No. She's not divorced. So people want an Islamic marriage, but they don't ask for it. Then they don't. Well, where's the Islamic divorce then? If you're going to get an Islamic marriage and you're telling me that you're a Muslim, you see the dichotomy here? But there are people that are doing that. Don't get yourself in that kind of mess. Because let me tell you something. At the end of the day, if you do this Islamic marriage, it's nothing. It's not recognized in this country. It might be something in the eyes of Allah. And you can dress it up, mutton looking like lamb all you want to. But take it to the courthouse, and you ain't got nothing. Let's just put it in real southern terms. It is indeed a great sin to turn a woman against her husband with the intention to marry her. I have actually seen it in the community and done counseling where a man and a woman were having trouble. And another man began to say, "Oh, shame, sister. So sad for you." And he begins to comfort her. And he becomes her knight in shining armor. Oh, mashallah, what would I have done if you had not come along? And the next thing, they are having an affair. That's what it is. And now they're seeing each other. I want to tell you something from the sense of a therapist. If you have problem in one relationship, and this is some advice, this is free, I'm not charging anybody for this. Complete all of the stuff in that relationship and empty yourself of that before you go into another relationship. Because let me show you what happens. If you're in relationship 1 and it's not going good, there's a whole lot of baggage. You ever heard that word?
No.
Baggage, a big bag, garbage bag. This doesn't work very well, but there's a big garbage bag. And while you're not out of this one yet, by legal terms, Islamically or civilly, you go into this, oh, the best thing that ever happened. Oh, I'm so in love and everything. The world is just a rainbow. And you have never resolved this. You bring this over to here, and guess what happens once the rainbow disappears? Some garbage comes up. And you got some stuff in this relationship. And now you got 2 bags of garbage. And so it goes. So I recommend to you that, and I'm going to show you this in the Quran, that when you leave a relationship, there's some emphasis in the Quran about seeking counsel. It's painful, people. It's like a janazah. You lose someone that you've invested in. It's very painful when we leave a relationship. I don't know that from experience, but I know that from working with people that have.
And you won't find out.
And my wife said, I will not find out. So let's look at a verse regarding talaq In actual fact, there is a whole surah in the Holy Quran called the divorce, al-talaq. But it seems to me that people have forgotten about this chapter. Let's look at the verse. O prophet, when you do divorce women, and this is a little caveat, Allah did not make anything lawful more abominable to Him than divorce. Of all the lawful acts, the most detestable to Allah is divorce. This is a hadith. It actually says that the heavens shake when there's a divorce.
Yes.
Divorce them at their prescribed periods. Now what does that mean? Just look at that right there before we even go any further. What does that insinuate? Well, a period is the amount of time, right? So it means that there's some times that should be set up for trying to work through things. Now listen to me, folks. If domestic violence is involved and you're being beaten, safety is always first. I have seen people take these verses out of context when somebody has been in the hospital before because their husband beat them so badly. I've actually seen this with my own eyes. So, and count accurately, and I'm going to teach you how to do that with another verse, inshallah. So we know that there's a period, and in that period of time, whatever it is, Allah is letting us know in advance, we need to make sure we take that time. Okay? Everybody with me? They're prescribed periods, and fear Allah, your Lord. So what is Allah telling you also? That when you've got a marital problem, fear Allah. Consult with Allah and His Messenger. It's not a laughing matter. Marriage is the foundation and the cornerstone for which the Islamic society is built. It's the source for legal relationships. Iddah is a technical term described in Surah 2, verse 28. We're going to go through that, okay? Iddah. I'm not saying it right. Iddah, okay? And turn them not out of their houses. Now, here's what I see happen. Talk, get out! Anybody ever seen this happen? Raise your hand. Look around, folks. Does that sound like what I read to you? No. And turn them not out of their houses, nor shall they themselves leave. I'm just going to go to mom and daddy. I'm going to run away. And if there is domestic violence, that is an exception. But some people argue about which television program to watch. No wonder they call it the idiot box. Except in cases they are guilty of some open lewdness. Do you remember when I was going over you the verse that is often mistranslated before in the class that has the word daraba in it?
Yeah.
And it said if your wife is guilty of nushuz. This verse ties into that one in that I explained to you that in the classical Arabic, the scholars say that this refers to lewd acts, most associated with fornication and adultery. It's not disobedience. It's not just, well, he told me I couldn't go to the Winn-Dixie and I went to the Winn-Dixie. But this is not what we're talking about. Except in cases they are guilty of some open lewdness, those are limits set by Allah. And any who transgresses or transgress the limits of Allah does very wrong his own soul. thou knowest not if perchance Allah will bring about thereafter some new situation. What is the new situation? Reconciliation. So there is an indication here that even if someone were perhaps to do a lewd act, maybe they kiss somebody, there's a chance for reconciliation. Well, let me tell you, if I kiss another woman in this community, I think my wife's going to find that lewd, since I'm married.
I would say it's abominable.
Okay? Because, you see, what we're thinking about is from the Western paradigm. In the Western paradigm, you don't think anything about kissing. And a matter of fact, nowadays, I'm seeing a big shift. I'm just going to leave it at that. But from the Islamic perspective, there's no cool one. There's no even touching and dating. Do you see the difference? So this kissing is just not even in the question.
Germs.
Germs. That would be the least of my worry.
Yes.
Okay. So let's look at the next verse. Thus when they fulfill their term appointed. So that means you got to learn what this term is, right?
Yeah.
How long it is. We're going to talk about that. Either, listen to this, folks, take them back on equitable terms. So, something happened, and I went into iddah, perhaps. It says that I must take them back on equitable terms if I can resolve or part with them on equitable terms. Now, what never ceases to amaze me, is that the people that sit on the front row of the masjid, they know all of the verses to use to their advantage. But they throw their women out. They don't give their women the support they're supposed to give them. And they put them in substandard housing to what they're living in. Now, did you see that this comes from the Quran? This is not my own idea. I am teaching from the Quran. It's pretty clear, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure, because this is so opposite to what I see that it perplexes me. I'm being genuine. What I have seen as a Muslim is so opposite to this that it actually can perplex me. And take as witness 2 persons from among you, Muslims, endued with justice. Now let me ask you something, folks. How many of you have mother-in-laws and father-in-laws that are endued with justice? Would you raise your hand if they are endued with justice? Would you look around again, folks? So let me ask you something. When it talks in the Quran about taking an arbitrator from both sides of the family, and looking at this verse in light of that, if those people are not fair, does that verse apply?
No.
No.
Alhamdulillah. This is a really smart class. So you choose people endued with justice. People that will look at it as it is instead of as each person thinks it is. Because people have their subjective realities that are usually flawed. And establish the evidence. Establish the evidence. Publicity and the establishment of proper evidence ensure that no one will act unjustly or selfishly. All should remember that these are matters of extreme importance. affecting our most intimate lives, and therefore our lives in the spiritual kingdom. As before Allah, such is the admonition given to him who believes in Allah and the last day. In other words, Allah is admonishing us. He's saying this thing called marriage, this contract, is nothing to play with. He ever prepares, and for those who fear Allah, He ever prepares a way out. Now, I've taught you that Jamila, may Allah be pleased with her, went to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she asked for a divorce from Ibn Thabit. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to her, well, what does he do wrong? And she said, he does not do anything wrong. His character is impeccable. He's irreproachable. But I dislike him so much as if I was leaving Islam. And she was granted a divorce. We're going to talk about that later, and I'm going to tell you what kind of divorce that is. How many people have learned something so far in the class today? Raise your hand. Okay, so it's working. Alhamdulillah. Of all things permitted by law, divorce is the most hateful in the sight of Allah. Ibda in divorce law is explained in Surah 2:28. Its general meaning is a prescribed or a prescribed period. But the actual general meaning is something that is prescribed. The prescribed period is in the interest of the wife, of the husband, of an unborn child. Look at the wisdom of this, because if I am having trouble with my wife and we separate and she is pregnant by me, do you think that sometimes that could be a cause for reconciliation?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Let's try to work this out. There's a child involved that we didn't know about. But now look at the lack of wisdom when you don't wait and you know you've got all this right here and you go over here, but you get over here and all of a sudden you start growing. And I'm working out. And things that normally happen about every 30 days aren't happening. But I'm so in love. You haven't waited. Now you've got big problems. Because you're expecting a child. And he's expecting something from you too. Anybody ever seen that happen in the community? Raise your hand. I'm the only one. Yeah. I have seen women leave their husband. Let me tell you something, folks. And this is on the camera. I might get nooks from YouTube after this. I tell couples that are having trouble when they come to me as a marriage counselor, don't bring a child into this. The child will not fix this. People think, oh, if we just have a baby. Isn't this just the most wisdom you've ever heard, God? If we just have a baby, everything will be all right. It'll fix all that pornography he's looking at on the television. And it'll fix all that so-and-so and so-and-so. And he won't want to work 70 hours a week because he'll want to come home and see that little baby. He'll want to work more.
What do you do if you don't know who it is?
Pardon me?
Yeah.
What do you do if you don't know who's,
Well, that's why you wait. Because if you wait, you'll know whose it is. See the wisdom in what Allah has prescribed? So, really, folks, don't move from one relationship, even if you don't marry. Don't move from one relationship till it's resolved. Those of you in this room that are divorced, you know that even when you do everything Islamically, you really never divorce that person if you have children with them. Because you still have to work with them. And it's not always pleasant. And children are so involved in this that we have so much empirical data about how these children are affected in school, how they are affected emotionally, how they suffer from more diseases, sicknesses, a higher percentage of people that come from these broken families end up dropping out of school. It's just a plethora of problems. And Allah has given us all the answers, the way to do it, if we safeguard ourselves.
Whenever, can I ask you?
Yes.
It's a question of what's the Islamic point of view? I know two cases. I'm not as learned as you are, so I cannot say anything. Two cases. One lady, she moved from New York to Florida, and they're separated 7 years, but not divorced. Another couple I know, they have been separated almost a year, living separately, no intimacy, nothing like that, and still not divorced. So in Islam, what is the period before you could say, look, we need to get a divorce?
Well, the iddah is the period. You're supposed to make a decision. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to break it down in the slides and actually show you what the Quran says about it.
Isn't there some rule about, like, if the husband is away from the wife within a certain time of the wife, this technically becomes...
Well, that's Sharia. Based on the Sharia, if a man or a woman does not provide companionship, conjugal relationships within 40 days, you're entitled to a divorce. Okay. Now, that's a different level. What I'd like to do is sort of stay with you on talaq. I want to answer your questions, but I'm going to answer them in this presentation. I'm going to answer it in a very nice methodical way. Yeah. Yes, brother?